The best golfers in the world are incredible at controlling their club face, and it is a crucial skill that every golfer needs to learn if you want to shoot lower scores. Now in today's video, I'm going to simplify down this process because it can be very complicated and this is guaranteed to help you with your game. You do not want to miss this video. Why is club face so important? Well, the first thing is at impact, wherever the face is pointing is going to more than likely determine where the ball is going to start. So if we start to get into positions where the face is excessively open and excessively closed, what we are going to see is very wide start lines. So the ball could start excessively to the right or to the left. Now, obviously, if you think about this from a scoring point of view, this isn't going to help us. We need to be able to have control over our start lines so we can control things like shot shape, and also we could just hit fairways, hit greens. It makes life so much easier. Now, the second reason as to why club face is so important is it sets off chain reactions in our golf swing. Our bodies are amazing mechanisms, and no matter how hard we try, it is always going to try and return that club face back to square, whether it's successful or not. So here's the thing, if we are somebody who gets the club face open very quickly, your brain is suddenly going to switch on and go, well, hold on a second, this is going to cause the ball for a right-handed golfer to go way to the right. I've got to do something. And these sort of compensations can come in the form of throwing your angles out and casting. It can come in the form of early extending and trying to throw it as well. It can come in the form of swinging over the top. It can come in the form of loads of forearm release. So there are loads of different ways that our bodies are going to try and match this up and square that face up. Now here's the thing, if the club face is actually in a good position, it's going to set off a positive chain reaction. So if we get into a nice square position to slightly closed, if anything, on the way back, the shaft will want to shallow out, we'll be able to shift our weight, maintain good body angles, get into a good impact position with a bit of shaft lean, and actually it's going to set off a huge chain reaction. So this is why club face is so important. If you can gain control of your club face, not only are you going to gain more control over your swing and you're going to find things are a lot more effortless, but you're also going to gain a lot more control over your ball flight, your start lines. You'll be able to shape the ball a lot better, and ultimately it's going to help you take your game to the next level. So let's go into how we can simplify this process down, and this is guaranteed to help you with your game. So when it comes to controlling the club face and simplifying it down, we are going to take the emphasis off the club head and actually put it onto our hands. We have two different types of golfers. Now obviously you can have a right-handed golfer, but they're going to feel with different types of players, they're going to feel the golf swing different ways. I'm going to run through how you can feel the golf swing if you're a right-sided dominant player or if you're a left-sided dominant player. Whenever we see players go wrong, what do we tend to see? Well, in the takeaway position, we will see that the right palm and the back of the left glove, so the logo on the back of my left glove, will point more at me and towards the sky. So you can see right there, that has caused the face to get very open. You'll also notice that's caused my right arm to get into a very buckled position. Now I see players where the club gets super behind me as well, and again, you can see palms sort of pointing more towards me, more towards the sky, logos pointing again more towards the sky, more towards me. Now if I then go back to the left arm parallel position, again you're going to see a lot of positions like this on the driving range. The right palm is again pointing towards me, the logo of the glove is again pointing towards me, and if I go to the top we get into a very open position right there. Again you can see logo pointing towards me, right palm pointing towards me. So you can see there's a very consistent theme there in the backswing. And you'll also see that as I do that, I get very narrow, the club face gets very open. And as we know, that's going to set off negative chain reactions. If we take this club back now, rather than everything pointing at me, I want to feel like my right palm points down to the ground and away from me, and the logo on the back of my left wrist points slightly down to the ground and again away from me. Let's take a look at what that looks like right here. So you can see in this position, as I do that, right palm is pointing down and away from me, logo on the back of my left hand is again pointing down and away from me, club face is tilted forwards, which again is in a square position, and a square position is where the club face is matching our spine angle. That would be classed as open, that's square, that would be closed. So we want it matching our spine angle right there. But you can also tell when I just put the emphasis on the palm pointing down or the logo pointing down and away from me, look at the right arm. Completely changed the position, completely changed the orientation of the club head to the hands, and ultimately completely changed my takeaway. So that one simple feeling must have changed 4, 5, 6 different things. So this is why we are simplifying it down. But here's the thing, we're not done yet. We can take that a whole nother step further. So if I said, right, continue that thought of the right palm, if you're a right-sided golfer, your dominant right side, pointing away from you the whole time in the backswing, and the logo on the back of your left hand if you're a left-sided golfer, pointing away from you the whole time in the backswing. Let's see what happens. So we're in away, away, away. Now you can see in this position, I am in a spot where that club face is square to maybe even a fraction closed. Also from the front on view, you can see I have a lot more width here. So the hands and arms are further away from the body. Again, this is going to sequence everything a lot better. And it's going to put me in a great position to where I can shallow the club. So now let's move on to the downswing. What do I see most commonly in the downswing? Well, as players go to the top of their swing, they love to pull down on the handle. This gets the left wrist again back into that cupped position, logo pointing at me, right palm again back on the side of it. Ultimately from there, we are not in a great position because the club face is starting to get open. The other thing that this does is it gets us very narrow, as you can see, as I pull in on the club, it gets me very narrow, also gets the shaft steepening. Again, a lot of chain reactions are going to be set off there. If I continue it down to the shaft parallel position, there is a lot of this notion of you want to have the toe pointing straight up to the sky. Again, majority of the best players in the world in this position will have their club face slightly down to the ground. Again, just because this makes the release a lot easier. Not to say that if you have the toe straight up, you can't have a good release. We're going to go into that into the release section and how you can match that one up. But I am a big advocate of getting players to feel like that club face is in a square position to slightly closed position in that spot because it simplifies down the release. Now, how are we going to do that? How are we going to start this chain reaction to get us off into a great position? Well, again, I want to put the emphasis on the hands. So as we go to the top of the swing, even if you are that golfer at the top who has a lot of cup in that lead wrist, you see this out on tour a little bit where golfers have an open club face at the top. The first move is going to be logo and right hand go and point away from them. So some players will go to the top, they'll be very square to slightly close, and they'll just continue to keep that right palm and the logo pointing away from them. Other players have a little bit more cup at the top, but then their first move is not to keep that cup or increase it, but it's to actually get rid of it and feel like the lead wrist sort of goes like that. Again, that's like if you imagine like a motorbike revving the handle, it's sort of that motion in transition. And again, the palm goes a little bit more that way. So it starts to rotate away from me, starts to point away from me. Again, that's going to close the club face, square the club face, shallow the club, do loads of great things. So if I do that one more time, this is the one where the club face is open at the top and then they will move it into that position. You can now see the club face is pointing sort of back towards the camera right there. My right palm's pointing away from me. Logo again is pointing away from me. Now, how do we continue that down? Exactly the same theme as we were doing before. We then go right palm away, right palm away. We get into this position here. Again, logo feels slightly down to the ground. Right palm feels down to the ground as well. Well, that now brings us into a great position where we can talk about the release. So let's run through the two main different types of release. If you have done everything that we've said so far and you've gotten that great position at this shaft parallel spot, you can see the club face is slightly pointing down to the ground. The toe, if there's a clock face, from my perspective, it's pointing more towards like 11 o'clock right there. Now from here, how do we want to release it? Well, I see so many people, they want to hold that club for as long as possible. But what this is actually going to do is slow you down. It might deliver some shaft lean, sometimes too little shaft lean, which I do see quite often, but actually it just slows you down. So what release pattern do we want? Well, if I now pop the club behind me on the ground and I then pop my right hand out in front of me in this sort of shaft parallel position right here, and I do sort of a push through as if I was doing an impact position, you'll see that the right hand naturally wants to go into this release position. Now what you'll notice is here as the palm's pointing down, I have this nice little angle at the back of my right wrist. So many golfers try and hold that. We don't want to be doing that. We do want to release it. And it's going to feel a little bit more sort of like an underhand throw on the way through. Again, if I did it with my left hand, I go logo down, it's going to be the same principle, logo to the sky. Logo down, logo to the sky. Now, if I grab a golf club and I place two hands on and go back to this sharp parallel position, you can see, got that angle there, right palm down, logo down, and I take it through. You can see how it goes into this position. Everything's released up that way. And again, very nice, consistent release is going to help us keep that club face nice and square through the hitting area, but also deliver shaft lean. Now, how do you practice that? Well, what we're going to do is just some little half swings. So you're going to step up to the ball. You're going to take it back to this halfway back position, pause sort of here at this shaft parallel point, and then from there, just all the way through and pause in this position. Feel like the right palm's under, logo's up to the sky, and just hit a whole load of, it's great to do with a wedge, whole load of shots with a wedge, just getting used to it, a 9-9, just getting used to it, and then from there slowly building it up. So basically the easy way to think of it is if I put my golf club down here and I was hitting out in that direction, everything this side is going to be palm down and away, 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 and then as soon as I go past that, to the sky, or to me. Then if I do it with my left hand, I go logo away, 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 go to here, logo to the sky, or logo more towards me. And again, as we're going through, we're not trying to buckle anything. We want to keep everything nice and wide, some good width. We're just releasing that club more like an underhand throw. Again, that's going to give you loads of control over the club face. Now, what if you are that golfer who, no matter how hard you try, club face still looks in this position right here where the toe is up to the sky, which I'm absolutely fine with. The only position I don't like to see is when the club face is actually leaning back on itself. So again, from my perspective, if I had a clock face there, that would be more at 1 o'clock. I'm not a fan of anything that's 1 o'clock or past. I don't mind seeing it at 12 o'clock. Again, from my perspective, ideally it would be more towards 11 o'clock. But what if you are that golfer who is at 12 o'clock? There is a way that you can still match it up. So rather than feeling like it's more of this sort of underhand release, you're going to be more of what I like to class as shaking hands with somebody. So essentially you are going to be rotating that hand just a little bit more over on top of the club. And again, this is more like a table tennis sort of forehand looking shot. And this is just where you're going to go sort of toe up to the sky, toe up to the sky. And again, a lot of half shots are going to help you. You're going to see a very different look to the right hand. Rather than it staying underneath, it's going to go more onto the side of the grip, and the same with the logo. Logo is going to be pointing forwards and then logo pointing back that way. So it's just a slightly different release type. It requires a little bit more forearms. Again, if I do it from this down the line view, if I'm that player that gets it down to the ground, it's going to be more of a underhand throw, versus if I'm that player that's more toe up, then it's going to be a little bit more of a forearm release. And again, I'm trying to match it with toe up on the other side. Remember, club face is king when it comes to start direction. It is also king when it comes to controlling your swing. Your swing is always going to react to your club face position. If your club face gets open, it's going to be a negative chain reaction. If your club face is square to close, it's going to have a positive chain reaction. And actually, I go one step further to say it's going to fix a hell of a lot of your swing faults if you just fix the club face. It's arguably the most important skill in golf, and if you can do that, you are going to be in a way better position.